stories from around Western New York that affect your life. This is Studio One with Joanna Toriano.
Welcome to Studio One. I'm your host, Joanna Toriano, and this month we're going to be talking to Chris Johnson, who is a hypnotist. And I'm really excited to have you on the show because I know as much as they show you on TV when people get hypnotized, in movies, but I don't really know that much about any of it. So let's start with credentials. Like, what credentials do you have that allow you to call yourself a hypnotist?
Sure. I am certified from the National Guild of Hypnotists, which is a governing body of hypnosis professionals represented by, I think it's about 70 countries worldwide now. So it's like the biggest, best organization with the best training, the best, safeguards, the best safety standards, and they really know their stuff. So that's why I'm certified.
Is it locally there where you went for your education, or did you have to go away? Or
I actually went to Florida for my education, which was really nice. I spent 2 weeks in Florida in January, the year I went and everything. So that was really nice. So not only did I get like a little mini vacation, but I got a great education too.
Tell me a little bit how hypnosis works. How is it? What do you do? I mean, how does it work? Like, is it the brain, or what happens?
It's the mind. It's how the mind works. There's a couple of different parts of the human mind and how we process information. There's the conscious mind, which is analytical. If I was to ask you, what? I'll give you an example of what I mean between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. If I was to ask you to say the alphabet, just say the alphabet for me.
I hope I know it. A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
Okay, you can stop. Okay. Now, if I was to ask you to say the alphabet, I'll make it easy for you. Say it every other letter.
A, C.
Okay, I'll let you off the hook.
Yeah.
Okay, the subconscious mind is where we store information. Like basically everything we've experienced since birth is stored in our subconscious mind, and we learn the alphabet at a young age, most of us, and we can just like rattle it right through because we're accessing that data, that database. Now, the conscious mind is basically the cognitive functions of our mind, the logic centers of our mind, and since we were never trained to say the alphabet every other letter, we had to stop and we had to think about it. We had to use two different parts of our mind.
It's almost like I could feel it switching too.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So we access your subconscious mind, which is stuff that's stored there. You're able to just like spit it out and go on what I call automatic pilot behavior. In the conscious mind, you had to stop and you had to think about it. That was using different parts of your mind. Now with hypnosis, what we do is we bypass the conscious part of your mind, the logical center of the mind, in order to access the subconscious and basically reprogram the person's mind for new habits. Like at some point, using weight loss as an example, somebody has learned incorrect eating habits if they want to lose weight. People hear things like they're starving children in China, clean your plate. The parent is intending to tell the child not to overeat, not to waste, or not to overeat, but not to waste food, if that makes sense. So the child accidentally, incorrectly learns these improper eating habits, and then it's stored in the subconscious mind through repetition, and that's how they go through life. And then when we're trying to unlearn those behaviors, the conscious mind is getting in the way, because the conscious logical part of the mind is there to protect you. And I'm simplifying a lot of this stuff for the sake of the viewers, but the conscious mind is there to protect you. If I was to say to you, Joanna, do me a favor, go outside and count how many pink elephants you see, you wouldn't even have to go outside. You know that there's none. Like, what's this guy talking about? He's crazy. So it's there to protect you. Now, that protective function gets in the way when we're trying to unlearn behaviors we don't like anymore. So hypnosis, using a lot of different verbal techniques, relaxation, and all kinds of different things, we allow that conscious part of the mind to relax and just kind of, why don't you just go over here for a little while and do something else, and then we work with the storage center of the mind where the A, B, C, D, E, F, G is stored. So that's a real simplification of how hypnosis works.
So basically, the one part of your brain is there to, if I'm hearing you right, is there to protect you. And
analyze data too.
And the other part of the brain is there.
It's like a storage center to also kick up new program or kick up the programming that's been stored there. We don't have to think about walking. We don't have to think about talking. We don't have to think about writing. We don't have to think about driving because we've done it over and over again. So it's automatic behavior in the subconscious mind. So like, okay, we're going to drive now. Hit that program, let it run, and then we can just kind of let our thoughts drift off and do whatever. That's why when somebody's driving, sometimes they do what we call highway hypnosis, where they forget what they're doing and they're like, la, la, la. Oh my goodness, I don't remember the last 30 miles I drove. How did I get here? They were in a hypnotic state. So when people hear hypnosis, they're like, oh, what is hypnosis? It's so scary and so horrifying or spooky or weird or funny or silly. And it's simply a natural function of the human mind that everybody does every day. And the highway hypnosis is like one example.
That is a very good example because I find myself doing that, and that's
Everybody
why
does,
now
yeah.
when I drive to school, I make sure I take a different route sometimes so that I have to think, you know,
Yeah, exactly.
instead of being on automatic pilot.
Exactly.
And,
Yeah.
that's
You're
much-
switching from the subconscious behavior, which is automatic,
Right.
to conscious behavior. Now I got to think about where I'm going.
Yes.
You're engaging the logic center of your mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is hypnosis safe? It's just kind of like, I don't know. There's a fear factor for me. Like if
Right.
if
Yeah.
you were to hypnotize me, like, ooh, how do I become unhypnotized? So we'll start with
Sure.
is it safe, and then how does the person go from being hypnotized to not being hypnotized? So,
Basically, you just experienced it. You know, when you did the automatic behavior, we accessed your subconscious mind, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And then when we went to the conscious mind, the AEC, so you went from a hypnotic state to the conscious state. So you were just hypnotized on a very light level of what we call a very light trance. Anytime you access the subconscious mind doing this automatic pilot behavior or emotional behavior or accessing a memory or something like that from the storage center, you're in a hypnotic state. So we are in hypnotic states all day long. It's just sometimes people get hung up when they see like a stage show or something
Yeah,
like that,
yeah.
and they do some of those silly things. That what it does, it loosens the inhibitions, but it also has the effect of the people watching. Oh my goodness, that's so scary and so horrifying. But it's completely safe because we do it every day. I simply take a natural function of the human mind and I help use that to help guide people toward the behaviors that they want to do. And getting back to the example of a stage show. One of the biggest fears is that people will say, oh, you're going to make me bark like a dog or do some horrible thing. But nobody can be made to do anything in hypnosis they would not normally do. It loosens the inhibitions, but it's not going to force somebody to do something they wouldn't normally do. And I'll give you an example, because I do occasionally do stage shows. I did one last night for Syracuse University, but my shows are very clean. I don't do anything dirty like you see in the comedy club shows. But one time I was doing a show, excuse me, and I had this wonderful woman up on stage with me. She's right around my age, right around, 35, 40 years old. And she was having a great time and dancing and doing all these cool things. And then at one point I said to her, now, when I count to 3, you're going to be Marilyn Monroe singing the Jack Kennedy in the audience. And I pointed to her husband. And she starts laughing and she goes, I may be hypnotized. I don't want to sing. Which I thought was wonderful because it showed the whole audience that, yes, we can do all these cool things with hypnosis for entertainment or for the benefit of our psyche and our behaviors, but we can't be made to do anything we wouldn't normally do. So, which was really, really cool.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, I loved it when that happened. It totally proved my point that I talk about in the beginning of my shows with my clients and everything, that you can't be made to do anything. Now, if somebody would, get up and dance or get up and sing during a hypnotic state, they would do that normally in their day-to-day lives if they felt comfortable and their inhibitions were loosened or whatever the case may be. But it's not going to go against somebody's moral code.
So the stuff you see in the movies where you have the thing, ding, ding, going back and forth, is that part of it? I mean, like
it can be. The whole swinging watch thing is kind of one of those. It's like the rabbit in the hat thing for magicians or whatever. But the whole reason why somebody swings the watch is that it's a focal point for the eyes. The person watches the watch, and they have to engage. They have to use their conscious mind to watch that watch. So the conscious mind is engaged, and then while the person is watching the watch swing back and forth, the hypnotist is giving suggestions. And the movie simplifies it, and they get a lot of the details wrong. But the basic core of it is that is a hypnotic induction technique where you're engaging the conscious mind to watch that watch. You're giving it something to do, and because the conscious mind is occupied, it's not paying attention to the verbiage that the hypnotist is saying, which is going directly to the subconscious mind, the behavior centers, where all this automatic programming and emotions and all that stuff is stored. So, but you can do the watch thing. I never do it because it's so trite. If somebody pull out a watch and people start rolling their eyes and everything. But that is a legitimate hypnotic technique when it's done properly.
Okay, so when you were trained, did somebody hypnotize you, and did you hypnotize other people? How? Tell me, how was the training? What had to happen?
It was very hands-on. We got a lot of the logic stuff, and we got to experience it and everything. And we got to experience different levels of hypnosis, and there's different levels of hypnosis, and I won't bore you with all the technical details, but there's a point of hypnosis where you're down nice and deep and you have like full body catalepsy, where if you would lift up somebody's arm, they stays there. And I was actually being hypnotized, and I could hear everything that's going on. That's another thing about hypnosis. I won't be aware of everything. You can hear everything that's going on. But the hypnotic state, the relaxing state, is so comfortable by a good hypnotist. I feel like going along for the ride is basically, the best way to describe it. it feels like that state when you're laying there in bed and you're like halfway between dream state and the waking state, and you're like, oh, this just feels good. I don't feel like I should open up my eyes and get up, but I just don't feel like doing it. That's kind of what a deep hypnotic state feels like. So anyway, I'm hypnotized, and my teacher comes over, and he's like lifting up my hand, he's like lifting up my arms and everything, and that was really fascinating. And I'm like, I got my arms in the air and everything, and I could hear everything that he's saying and everything. This is really fascinating. Can you put my arms down now? I'm tired, So that was kind of neat. And then another time he was doing what's called a post-hypnotic suggestion. And I do this during my shows, and I give people post-hypnotic suggestions for, weight loss and smoking and everything for these behaviors to take hold. And his post-hypnotic suggestion was simply as a demonstration of how it works. Post-hypnotic suggestion is something that's an anchor that takes place after the hypnotic state whenever a trigger happens and the person does whatever the behavior is. So he says, after you emerge from the hypnotic state, every time I touch my tie, you're going to go back into a hypnotic state. And I could hear this, I'm like, oh boy. And by this point, when I had this particular clinical training, I've been doing stage hypnosis for years. So I've had multiple trainings. So I'm like, oh boy, because I do this kind of stuff on my stage show. So I emerge, and I'm just thinking to myself, like a lot of people, I just won't look at his tie.
Right.
But the hypnotic state feels so comfortable, and I knew I was safe. On a logical level, I knew I was safe because I knew this guy a lot longer than before my training, and I was in a safe environment. So I couldn't keep my eyes off the tie. I'm like just waiting for that trigger. They touch the trigger, and I drop down, and he emerges me, and he does it again, and I drop down. Wow. And then the third time, he touches his tie, and just as I was dropping down, I just enough, awareness to go, you're a jerk, that kind of thing. That was kind of funny. Yeah. So I was able to, get in my own commentary even while I was going into the suggestion. It was really cool.
So can anyone be hypnotized, or are there people who you try this with and it doesn't work, or how?
Anybody can be hypnotized. There's a few limitations, like over the age of 5, because their cognitive functions are not functioning. They don't have the degree to focus yet. So like a child under the age of 5 is like really tough. And quite honestly, because their cognitive functions aren't fully formed and they don't have all this conscious logical filters in the way, they're in a hypnotic state most of the time anyway. Like if I'm working with like a bedwetter, for example, I can just talk to the child and just say whatever it is I'm going to say without a formal induction, and the stuff will sink right into the subconscious mind. That's why you can walk up to a little child and say, hey, I saw a dinosaur today. They go, oh, really? Their conscious functions aren't fully formed and they're not in the way yet, that you're going directly into the subconscious mind. Yeah. The subconscious mind will believe anything you tell it as long as that logical conscious part is out of the way. So that's why you can tell that to a kid about the dinosaurs and everything. So you can hypnotize anybody who is over the age of 5 and who has a fair amount of intelligence, like somebody who's Down syndrome, for example. They couldn't be hypnotized because their cognitive functions are such where they don't have the degree of focus and that kind of thing. So pretty much anybody over the age of 5 whose brain functions normally, like somebody who's on like drugs for something, they couldn't do it. Or their cognitive functions are impaired. Or somebody who's like bipolar, they really couldn't benefit from hypnosis because their brain functions aren't up to par with like a normal person. And I put normal in quotes because what is normal?
What's the upper limit then? Is there an upper limit?
It's somebody like Albert Einstein, who was like super intelligent. I don't remember what his IQ was, but somebody like of the upper intelligence level, like super genius, they probably would not be able to be hypnotized because their logic centers are so strong that they wouldn't allow themselves to relax and let go. The intellectual part of them would have a hard time allowing themselves to be hypnotized. But because even those people could access the subconscious mind, in theory they could be hypnotized. It's just a matter of whether or not they would allow themselves to be. There's a little bit of debate there. So
that makes sense. I mean, because like if it's so strong, it's not gonna let go. It's like you're not doing this to me.
Yeah, you have to have the willingness. You have to have the willingness. I mean, again, because anytime you access the subconscious mind, technically speaking, you're in a hypnotic state. We just don't use that terminology in our day-to-day lives. Like if I was to ask you, Joanna, to think about a memory, think about something that happened from your youth, or think about a pet you had, or whatever, and make that image come into your mind. Once you've accessed that imagination, you're in a hypnotic state. So, and even a super genius, they have subconscious behavior. They do things automatically. They drive their cars, they do whatever. So technically speaking, they're in a subconscious state. It's just a matter of if they would do formal hypnosis with somebody. I've been told that chances are they probably would not, because they wouldn't want to let go. They just wouldn't want to let go. Control. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's a little bit of debate there, but those are my opinions. So.
Well, one of the things you mentioned was the bedwetting, which I think is interesting. I never even thought about being hypnotized for that. But what other reasons would people want to come to you, and what kinds of things could you offer them? The bedwetting is fascinating to me, so that's one thing that you could work on with the parent or the child.
Both, actually. Both, actually, because I don't want to get too off course here, but if a child is wetting the bed, it's usually some kind of a stress in the child's life, and their subconscious mind is like, I'm experiencing this negative emotion, this stress, and the bedwetting is a release. It's kind of like if you hold your breath for a while, your body's like kicking up this reaction, so you got to let your breath go. You got to, So emotions is kind of like a boiling pot of water. You put the lid on it, and it starts bubbling over and everything. If we've got a negative emotion inside of us, then it starts to bubble over, and that's where a lot of our stress functions come from. Where we're feeling stressed out, so our body, we start to feel achy and everything like that. Where, this negative energy has to get out. So with a child, it's usually like a family dynamic thing. When a child starts wetting the bed, it could be like a fear, or it could be something that happened, some time ago. The child that's scaring him and causing this physical response in the body. But a lot of times, it's like a family dynamic. The parents are fighting, something's going on in the house that's causing stress in the child. But to get back to your question,
what other reasons would people want to come to you?
The two classic examples that people come to see me are for weight loss and smoking. Those are like the big things. With weight loss, again, the person, very often they're either and it's not just overeating. There's a lot of different categories about weight loss. Sometimes people are chocoholics. Sometimes they overeat at night. Sometimes they have problems with portion control of their meals. So there's a lot of nuances about weight loss. But just using overeating as an example, they could be overeating because of an emotional response. They're feeling stressed out, so they eat, and it makes them feel better for a while. So for a little while, they forget about their stress. It's a distraction. So hypnosis can help a person with that. If a person is not eating out of emotion, they're sitting in front of their TV and they're eating a bag of chips, and it's like subconscious behavior. They don't really realize they're doing it. And then next they look down, and the bag of chips is gone. That's automatic behavior. So we use hypnosis to go in and basically reprogram the mind to have new programming to basically stop that behavior, that kind of thing. A lot of nuances about weight loss. Smoking, same thing. A lot of people smoke because they started smoking because they wanted to look cool as a kid, or they wanted to rebel, or they want to fit in with a group, or whatever the case may be. And some people, there's usually two kinds of people who smoke, and it can be the same thing with each person. Sometimes people smoke because, again, they're stressed out, they're bored, they're upset, they're angry, they're lonely, whatever the case may be. And they smoke a cigarette, and they believe that smoking relieves their stress. But smoking actually increases their stress because the nicotine in a cigarette actually has a delayed chemical response in the body. Somebody smokes a cigarette, and then about 20 minutes later, the nicotine kicks up the same physiological response in the body as anxiety or stress.
So then they need another cigarette.
Exactly. It turns into this vicious cycle. A lot of people don't know that. Every cigarette does that to a person. So when they're getting away from, they're at work and, okay, I got to go take a smoke break. Work's stressing me out. And they go over and they smoke a cigarette. What they're really doing is relieving their stress by getting away from the stress. And they could have a better stress response by taking a drink of water, taking a deep breath, going for a walk. Those are healthier ways of responding. And then with hypnosis, we do that. We go into the subconscious mind, we help them relearn this new kind of behavior, that kind of thing. They find different things to do to relieve their stress or their boredom or their anxiety or their sadness, as opposed to the cigarettes. Because the cigarettes is actually making it worse, but a lot of people don't realize that. And then the second kind of smoking is, and I'm saying this with people who really want to quit smoking, but I keep on doing it, is the subconscious smoking. Again, they don't, they go in automatic behavior. So they get in their car, they light up a cigarette. They wake up in the morning, they roll over in the bed, they grab their smokes, and they start smoking. So one of the things I teach my clients to do, in addition to all the other hypnotic techniques, I say alter your behaviors. If you always smoke where you're watching TV, like I'll give you an example. My tax guy, my accountant, I take my taxes every year for my business, and my wife has her business, and we're sitting down talking one day, and he told me he actually quit smoking for like 5 months or whatever, and he just did it cold turkey or whatever method he used. But he doesn't have any desire to quit smoking now, but I'm getting off track. So he sits down in his favorite chair after not smoking for 5 months, immediately lit up a cigarette.
Wow.
So that tells me that it was an anchor, it was a trigger. So every time he sat in that chair previously, he always smoked. So when he sat in that chair, his brain went on automatic pilot function because he smoked in that chair so many other times. So essentially, using a computer analogy, that old programming kicked in. So he sat down, time to run that. So the brain, the mind said, okay, time to run that program. Lit up a cigarette, and he's been smoking ever since.
Oh, wow.
So,
that's too bad.
Yeah, exactly. But the weird thing is he doesn't want to quit smoking, but that's another story. Because I told him, I said, come see me. And he goes, I don't want to quit smoking. I'm like, okay. So, then that's another thing. You have to want it to happen. If somebody says, make me quit smoking, it's not going to happen. Hypnosis has to be compliant. You cannot force anybody in hypnosis. You cannot force them to do anything they wouldn't normally do. They have to want to do it. They have to want to do it. And you can people come see me for sports enhancement, for stress, phobias. I work a lot with phobias, all kinds of neat things. I had somebody come in to my center one time for a fear of clowns, which is interesting. So yeah. I mean, water, snakes, spiders, that kind of thing you expect. And I have fear of clowns. Okay, that was interesting. So we worked with that too.
Where are you located? If someone wanted to come and meet with you, where do they go?
It's called the Niagara Falls Hypnosis Center. It's located at 7820-7820 Porter Road in Niagara Falls, New York. And our phone number is 716-940-8963.
Okay. Yeah. Now, if somebody was to come to you, say, for smoking, is it a one-shot deal? Is it twice, 3 times? I mean, I'm sure it has to do with how the person is behaving and is compliant to what you're asking them to do.
Exactly.
But, how long does this take?
Yeah, it depends on the person. I mean, I've got 2-session programs, 4-session programs, or longer. Depends on the person. I mean, some people are really motivated. I had one young lady come see me, and she's like, "Okay, I am so ready to quit smoking. I hate this habit. I want this to be done." It's really, really cool. Another guy came in, and he was kind of leery about it. I want to quit smoking, but I'm worried, and blah 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 blah. And other people, they come in, they sit down because my wife wants me to quit smoking. Okay, we got an uphill battle here. He doesn't really want to quit smoking. So it depends on the person. So what I encourage all my clients to do, whether it's for smoking or weight loss or whatever, is call me up, make an appointment for a free consultation, no obligation. They come in, they sit down, I get to know what their motivations are, what their challenges are in life, how receptive they are to hypnosis, how much they want this new behavior or to end the old behavior, I should say. And I let them know what their options are. It's kind of like going to see a doctor. The doctor can't tell you over the phone, what you're going to do for them. The mechanic's not going to know what's wrong with your car until he sees the car. Like, it's making a thump 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 noise. No, you got to see it to make make a diagnosis as far as whether it's smoking or weight loss, whatever. I mean, I know literally. For weight loss, 400 or 500 different techniques. For smoking, around 100 different techniques. So it depends on the person, what they need, different induction styles. And the induction is to put a person into a trance, relax, take a deep breath, whatever.
How long does that process take?
So the actual hypnosis process?
Yeah, like if somebody came to you, is it like a 30-minute thing? Is it an hour? I mean, how?
Yeah, the actual induction process to actually get them into hypnosis is actually pretty quick. Okay. Like as you saw with the ABC example, we can go into
scary,
we can go into hypnosis like really fast, and then after that we do some deepening. So the actual induction part of the process, which is very relaxing, by the way, I tell all the viewers and all my clients, this is relaxing. You can enjoy yourself, like a nice comfy chair. They just lean back when you come in to see me in my office. You relax, you hear some nice pleasant music, and you hear my voice, and it's very relaxing, very pleasant. So that part of the procedure takes like 5-10 minutes depending on the person, and then the rest of the session is giving them the hypnotic techniques, telling them their brain cool things to basically reprogram the mind in different ways. I mean, I don't want to go too far into the technical aspects of it, but my session is usually about an hour long. Person comes in, how you doing? We do some intake, find out what's going on in their lives, talk a little bit, get them into hypnosis, do the suggestions and techniques, and afterwards, we talk, what was that like for you? What did you notice? How do you feel now? Anything else you want to work on next week or what have you? So sessions are usually about an hour long, give or take.
So they come to you, they want to quit smoking, you replace the unwanted behavior with something that goes in their subconscious mind.
Yeah.
And then
it's like installing a new computer program, essentially. Yeah.
And then do they come back to you for a checkup?
That's why we have multiple sessions. We have multiple sessions. We have different facets of the session. We work on different aspects. Again, using smoking as an example, different aspects of the smoking behavior. Like, so most of the people come in to see me, it's partially an emotional issue and it's partially like an automatic behavior issue. Some people, they like, oh, I'm so upset, my life is a wreck right now, I smoke to feel better. A lot of the people, when they smoke emotionally, it's just, okay, I'm stressed out, I'm going to smoke, or I'm bored, I'm going to smoke. It's not a severe emotional issue, but it is. So there's different techniques to work with the emotional issue as opposed to the automatic behavior, subconscious mind issue. So, multiple sessions, we address those issues, we resolve those inner conflicts, because everybody wants, everybody who comes to see me, on some level, they do want to quit smoking. Even the guy who says, my wife wants me to be here. Right. He wouldn't come to see me if there wasn't some of them that wanted to quit too. So they want to quit, and then part of them is keeping them there. So what I do is I help the person resolve those inner conflicts. So there's a litany of different techniques to do that. So
this is fascinating to me. So people can achieve their goals through hypnosis, and you're located in Niagara Falls, New York.
Yep.
On Porter?
Yeah, Porter Road, 7820 Porter Road, Niagara Falls, New York. Website is NiagaraFallsHypnosisCenter.com. I've got videos on there of successful clients from the past, talking on camera about how successful, how enjoyable it was and everything. The fact that I didn't hypnotize them to, give me the keys to their car or bark like a dog or anything like that. All those silly Hollywood things that simply are not going to happen. So,
well, that was, when we talked, before the show, that was what my image was somebody just sitting there going like this, and then all of a sudden they're, gone or whatever. But
no, I usually just relax in their chair. I, breathe deeply, and think, and I give them some different things to think about to access the subconscious mind. Like if they vacationed in Hawaii, for example, and it was a very pleasant experience, I say, think about Hawaii, for example, and what it was like, and remembering what it felt like to put your foot in the water, or what it felt like for the sun washing over you. So those memories are accessing the subconscious mind. So they're instantly in hypnotic state, and it's very relaxing, and then I continue to deepen them to relax them further, that kind of stuff. So it's I make my sessions very enjoyable.
Is the goal to make what is in the subconscious mind move over to the conscious mind?
No, it's our behavior is dominated by the subconscious mind. Mm-hmm. Anytime there's a conflict between the subconscious mind and the conscious mind, the subconscious mind will usually win. So a function of the mind, willpower, is of the conscious mind, the analytical portion of the mind. Where we say to ourselves, "I'm not going to smoke anymore," or "I'm not going to eat bad Hostess Twinkies or anything like that anymore." And so the conscious mind is like, "I'm going to do this," and then the subconscious mind overrides it. It's got more power to it. Exactly. We got more power to it and everything like that. The conscious mind and willpower is only intended to be like a short burst. It's kind of like an iceberg. If you look at an iceberg, you got X amount of ice above the water. That's kind of like the conscious mind, where you've got your logic center in there, you've got short-term memory, then you've got your subconscious mind, where you've got this huge data center where your experiences, your emotions, your thoughts, and everything are stored. And the reason why it's separated like this is not only as a protective function I talked about before, but it's also to keep you from going crazy. Because if you're aware of everything that goes on around you at one time, you'd go crazy. Like if you're going into a mall and there's like hundreds of people around you around Christmas time, and everybody's talking and chattering, and on some level you can hear it, but if you're really zeroed in on everything, you'd go absolutely bonkers. So the conscious mind is very limited. You can only focus on a few things at one time. That's why it's so easy to go into a hypnotic state when you're driving. You don't have to focus on your driving, something else to occupy your attention. You zone out.
Right.
So the conscious mind can only focus on a few things at one time. And it's there to keep you from going crazy, so you don't have all this external stimuli bouncing off of you all the time. It's you're aware of it in some level. It's kind of like the din, the roar of the crowd kind of thing, but you're really zeroed in on a couple of things.
Learn to ignore it.
Yeah, so that's why we have to reprogram the subconscious mind, because that's where it controls everything. The conscious mind is there for logic and data analysis, and are we going to allow this into the subconscious mind, that kind of thing, as focal points and so forth. But as far as our dominating human behavior, the subconscious mind is where everything takes charge.
This has been very interesting. I've really enjoyed having you. And if anyone is interested in talking more to Chris, you want to give your phone number again, where you can be reached?
Sure, 716-940-8963.
Okay.
Give me a call. You can come on in for a free, no obligation consultation. We can discuss what your goals are and go from there.
Okay. Thank you for coming on, and we'll be back next month with a new topic.